let me introduce to you our first speaker for the day. As a licensed sanitary engineer and member of the Philippine Society of Sanitary Engineers, Engineer Alexis has accumulated 2 years of hands-on experience in conducting comprehensive environmental impact assessments, environmental monitoring, and baseline data gathering. She has played a pivotal role in stakeholder engagement and fisheries investigation for Philippine subsea cable projects, ensuring that environmental considerations are integrated into project planning and execution. In addition to her technical roles, Engineer Alexis is a trained safety officer with Bosch certification, further underscoring her commitment to ensuring safe and compliant project environments. Driven by her passion for sustainable development and her meticulous approach to environmental assessments and project management, let us all welcome our speaker, Engineer Alexis Marie Lipuria.
Hi everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can I share my screen now? Pwede na ba?
Yes po, Engineer.
Okay. Sige, wait lang. Okay. Can everyone see my presentation? Visible ba siya? Okay. So, hello again, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Isa or Isa. Once again, I'm Alexis Lipura, and I'm an environmental impact assessment specialist in GHD. And honestly, I was really surprised by the invite and thankful na rin kasi now I have the opportunity to talk to you all about environmental and sanitary engineering and the type of work that I do and why I highly encourage all of you, future civil engineers, to try and take up environmental engineering. So, ayun na nga, I was introduced earlier, pero before anything else, let me tell you more about myself. So, I graduated last 2021, so pandemic baby ako, and I was initially going to take up the Sanitary Engineering Board exam. But, yeah, noong July 2021, pero I felt like I was not ready and confident enough to take it kasi feeling ko ang dami ko pang hindi alam. Which is, nung time na yun, very true. So, nag-take ako, sumunod na batch in 2022 in January, and, fortunately, I passed. So, a week after getting my board exam results, yung week na yun, nag-celebrate lang ako and stuff. Pero after that week, I immediately searched for jobs online kasi alam ko, it could get very competitive. So I tried to apply for graduate programs, cadetship programs, mga design engineering positions na good for fresh grads. Pero there's not really a lot of open positions nung time na yun. And, medyo mahirap maghanap kasi it was the pandemic. So, pero like a month later, I got my first job as an environmental apprentice sa Apersu Consultants, which is based sa Quezon City. And I actually live in Las Piñas, so just imagine the travel time between Las Piñas and Quezon City. So during that time, nag-turn din ako to become a safety officer. And now I'm working towards getting my EIA preparer number or license. So, yeah, yun. I worked in Apersu Consultants for 1 year and a half. And then, I was offered to become a management trainee para maging team lead ng EIA team sa Apersu. But, nung time, I resigned a few months after kasi hindi ko na kinakaya yung commute between Las Piñas and Quezon City kasi usually ang commute ko is like around 6 hours a day. Pag hindi masyadong traffic, and then kapag traffic like around 7 to 8 hours. So medyo, it's kind of, medyo hindi siya sustainable. Hindi ko siya nakikita sustainable in the long future. So, ayun, nagkaroon naman ako ng opportunity closer to home sa Makati, which is in sa GHD. So, I took that opportunity, and fortunately, I was able to be accepted sa GHD. So, right now, ang ginagawa ko sa GHD is I'm still an EIA specialist, but I'm under the direct workshare program ng GHD. So, my main work focuses on sa mga projects na sa New South Wales, sa Australia. And yung team ko actually is based in Sydney. Pero I also work on other projects sa ibang states din ng Australia like Brisbane, Perth, and some Melbourne. So from time to time, tumutulong din ako sa local Philippine environment team kapag kailangan nila ng tulong kasi ang dami ding projects ngayon sa Pilipinas, especially in the renewable energy field. So, ayun, in my line of work now, I'm actually not referred to as an engineer, pero I'm an environmental scientist kasi yung team namin is, ang tawag sa amin is mga environmental scientists and mga social scientists. Pero yun, by profession, I'm still an engineer. So, ayun, ito yung mga pictures ko. Dito sa left side, my graduation picture, and then dito sa right side, is one of actually my last field work activities dun sa first company ko. So, we hiked the mountain. Parang ganun. Okay, so next is yung mga key experiences ko throughout my 2 years. Actually, mukha nga parang 5 years na ako nagtatrabaho, pero actually 2 years pa lang. Pero I feel like 5 years na kasi sobrang daming projects talaga na pumapasok and sobrang daming dami kong involvement sa like mga projects namin. So I guess yung mga key experiences ko is I was able to hike a mountain, and hindi lang siya mountain, like hindi lang siya yung may mga tracks and stuff. Yung na-hike namin ng mga mountains is yung mga mountains na hindi talaga pinupuntahan ng mga tao. Yung mga mountains na walang dirt path, walang trails. Kami yung gagawa ng trails. Parang ganun. So, that was an experience talaga. Next, first time in this line of work, first time ko din makahawak ng mga iba't ibang klase ng ibon and ng mga paniki. So, I'll talk more about that later. And then next, I handled my first international client, and it was also the first project that I managed alone. It was a big project, and ako lang yung tao nun na pwedeng mag-manage nun. So yeah, that whole experience was really what made me who I am right now. So as you can see, may nilagay ako na parang submarine dito sa line na to, and I'll tell you more about it later kung bakit yun. And then next, I experienced using different water quality and air quality testing tools. Since yung specialization ko kasi is water quality, which includes surface water, groundwater, and marine water quality. So, ang dami kong nagamit na tools on the field for the first time. And then we use these tools in like different conditions. May mga times na nag-water quality testing kami sa bangka. Like, ito sa first picture. Mabibigat yung equipment, tapos kailangan hindi namin siya mahulog sa dagat, tapos maano pa yung waves, maalon pa. And then there were some instances na nag-hike kami sa bundok, tapos dala-dala namin yung water quality equipment namin, and ayun, we just have to be like very careful na hindi namin mahulog or something yung mga equipment namin kasi medyo mahal. So ayun, it was really, really an experience. And then next, I was able to interact with a lot of people of different cultures and nationalities, of different walks of life and different ages na din. Kasi it's actually part of my job. Pero at the same time, you get to learn more about yung mga people na maapektuhan ng project mo, and you get to listen to them firsthand experience of their issues with the impacts na pwedeng madulot ng project sa kanilang surrounding environment and dun sa community nila. Lastly, and probably my most favorite experience so far is I get to travel locally and internationally for free. So I get to see places dito sa Pilipinas na hindi masyadong pinupuntahan ng mga tao. And I get to be one with nature, and I get to meet different people, and I get to try different foods. Kasi if you're in my line of work, talagang hindi ka lang 3 times a day kumakain, kundi mga 5 times a day kasi kailangan mo talagang i-replenish yung energy mo sa sobrang bigat ng mga fieldworks. Yun, I also had the chance to travel internationally. So this actually happened just last year, nung 3rd month ko sa GHT. I was flown to Sydney to meet yung buong team namin in person and to work on some projects na din face-to-face with them para, makuha ko yung vibe, ma-set namin yung relationship namin with each other. Yun. So next slide, I'll share some pictures. Pero ayun, I guess one of my key experiences din is yung nakita ko ng owl. This is like a common owl lang in person. Common owl. And then ayun, we were just measuring yung wingspan ng owl. So there was no any, parang wala namang nangyaring any mishandling ng mga animals na nakukuha namin during our service or during our fieldwork. So rest assured. Okay, so here are some of the shots here are some of the pictures na kinuhanan ko na talagang nagustuhan ko and very memorable for me. So yung unang picture, eto sa taas, yung nasa bangka, and then etong nasa baba, na parang nasa bangka din kami, is during our marine water quality assessment fieldwork for one of our projects sa Bataan. So it was 4 days. It was for 4 days. So ang dami kasi naming stations noon, and during the mornings, kumukuha kami ng mga samples, pinupuntahan namin yung mga stations, and then during the afternoon, pumunta kami ng Pampanga para i-deliver yung mga samples dun sa lab. So, and then dito naman sa taas, middle picture sa taas, is a fieldwork na I was part of last year for, if I remember correctly, it was for our auditing activity yata. And this was actually one of the train stations of the North-South Commuter Railway project. This was Giginto Station ata sa Bulacan. And this was also my first time doing an activity na hindi ko specialty, kumbaga. And I'll talk about it later kung bakit hindi ko specialty pero may activity kami about it. May fieldwork kami about it. So bakit ako sumama? Something like that. So this was actually more on stakeholder engagement to, and it was an experience. It was a memorable one for me kasi a few months in GHD, I was already drafting one of their monitoring reports. If I remember correctly, it was water quality, tsaka, I think air quality na din, tsaka noise. And then to be able to see the project site in person a few months after ko gawin yung mga reports na yun, talagang, it was eye-opening, and I can see that the NSCR project will really boost our transportation development, and magagamit talaga siya ng mga tao. Nakikita ko na magagamit talaga siya. So the next photo, dito naman sa right side, top right side, and then I guess ito na din sa baba, yung group photo na to and yung picture ng panike. This was one of the most memorable projects talaga na handle ko. The project was about an onshore wind farm based in Quezon Province and Laguna. Ito na din yung, I guess, pinakamatagal ko na fieldwork. This was actually 2 weeks. Tapos parang may 1 week lang ata kami napahinga. Then kailangan namin bumalik agad for another week, I think. And then, I guess, ang dami naming nakita mga birds dito and mga bats, and I was actually able to hold one of the birds. So, etong ibon na to is the Philippine Drogon, which is where, if you know about Ibong Adarna, this is actually yung ibon, saan it was based because of yung plumage niya sobrang colorful and ang laki niya in person. And then, dito naman sa baba, ito yung mga rangers, mga forest rangers sa UP Laguna Land Grant. So, UP Laguna Land Grant kasi is yung isa sa mga pagtatayo ng mga wind farms, or I guess mga wind turbines pala ng project. So, we spent 1 week here sa Laguna, and we just hiked for that 1 whole week. And then, ganoon din sa Quezon Province, pero wala akong masyadong picture nun kasi I think it was because sobrang hassle, I guess, mag-picture ng time na yun. And then, first time ko ding makahawak ng panike. So, kamay ko yan. And then, yung nag-picture na lang is yung research assistant na kasama ko noon. To be honest, sobrang fragile ng mga bats. And habang hawak ko yung bat, habang pinipicturean nila and tinitingnan nila kung ng species, sobrang magalaw ng bat and umiiyak talaga siya. So, after 2 minutes, talagang inano na namin siya sa puno, nilagyan na namin siya, binigyan namin siya ng parang sucrose, glucose solution, sorry. It was a sugar solution. Binigyan namin siya ng sugar solution para hindi siya, or parang ma-replenish yung energy ng bat. And then, the last photo sa bottom right is actually the same project din. This was also the same project, the onshore wind farm sa Laguna and sa Quezon Province. It was another activity na hindi ko specialty. It was called the Information, Education, and Communication Campaign. So it was also more on the stakeholder engagement side, which is a crucial part ng buong environmental impact assessment process. So, what makes this memorable for me is kailangan namin bumiyahe from Mauban in Quezon Province to one of these barangays na medyo remote talaga. Walang Wi-Fi and there's minimal electricity. So, nagbumiyahe kami via boat or bangka for 1 hour and a half. And then, I guess, yung pinaka gusto ko dun sa part na yun is sobrang hospitable ng mga tao, sobrang welcoming nila, and naalala ko yung ginawan pa nila kami ng lunch, or I guess like para maging part ng lunch namin, gumawa sila ng parang ginataan na freshwater eel. I'm not sure kung anong tawag nun sa dish na yun, pero it was freshwater eel. And then humuli din sila ng mga squids, tapos inadobo nila. And yung way ng pagkaluto nila ng freshwater eel na yon, sobrang sarap talaga. Parang paminsan-minsan iniisip ko pa rin yung kung paano nila ginawa yun and kung ano yung name ng dish kasi sobrang sarap and medyo nakakamiss din. So yun. I also have like other milestones sa career ko, pero I usually regard those na as technical milestones, and I don't necessarily have the photos or the documents to share them with you all kasi medyo some of them are confidential. So with my current work now, I guess ang pwede kong ma-share yung naging isa sa mga pinakamalaking milestones ko, technical-wise, is I was able to author an environmental assessment report for several projects sa Australia. So I consider this as one of my biggest technical milestones kasi I had to learn the laws and regulations ng Australia and specifically actually New South Wales, while at the same time adapting a new way to writing an environmental assessment report. And talagang I was only able to I guess review yung mga laws and regulations nila doon for a week. Hindi ako nag-work pa noon. Pero I was just given parang mga references lang and then I read through all of them. And until now, habang nag-work ako sa ibang projects ko, I'm still learning yung mga regulations na sobrang dami. And it's talagang magkaiba siya compared sa Philippines. So next, mga most memorable projects ko naman dito sa Pilipinas and sa Australia. Yung sinabi ko kanina if you remember sa key experiences ko kanina, nilagay ko doon isang submarine cable. Ay, submarine pala. So, ayun. Parang nagkaroon ako, in my first work, nagkaroon ako ng project called, submarine cable project siya. And marami siyang locations dito sa Philippines, I guess. Isa Camarines Norte sa Daet, and then may mga parts sa Luzon, specifically yung around Ilocos, Pangasinan, Zambales, ganun. And then, meron din sa coastal towns sa Mindanao, like Surigao del Norte, Davao, Zamboanga, Basilan, and Tawi-Tawi, around that area. So, these types of projects actually paved the way for me to become who I am right now, kung ano yung parang naging passion ko, I guess. And then, next is mga renewable energy projects. So far, mostly na nagiging involved ako is puro mga solar, wind, and offshore wind projects. So if you can see dito sa first two pictures, hindi ito yung project namin, but pumunta kami dito sa Guimaras where these windmills are located kasi we were I guess parang tinitingnan lang namin kung gaano kalaki yung mga windmills, wind turbines in person kasi yung client namin before is gusto nila or nagpropose nila magtayo ng offshore wind farm sa Guimaras Strait, along Guimaras Strait. So we were wondering kung gaano ba sila kalalaki in person and kung ano kaya yung magiging itsura nila. And then during this time na din, we were able to talk din sa mga local government units, sa may San Lorenzo, if I remember correctly, it was San Lorenzo, and then there were some other towns din, pero mostly parang lahat ata ng towns din sa Guimaras napuntahan namin. And then mga national projects like what I said kanina, yung NSER, and then recently yung Metro Manila Flood Management Project. During this project, super minimal lang yung involvement ko, pero it was I guess yung second time ko na maging involved in a national project. So during this project, basically we facilitated a workshop for different Metro Manila local government units, as well as government agencies like the DENR, DPWH, and as well as yung mga water concessionaire companies or mga water providers natin like Maynilad and Manila Water. So we were able to hear kung ano yung mga, I guess, priorities nila para hindi gaano maka-impact yung mga baha sa mga constituents nila. And I guess parang ano na din, to gain their insights kung ano yung mga dapat unahin, I guess, ng mga environmental factors or environmental considerations kapag when doing the flood management project. I can't really divulge too much information, pero that's kind of like the gist of it. So, ayun. And then, I have like other projects na memorable, pero in Australia naman. So, like dito sa Pilipinas, mga submarine cable projects sa Australia, specifically sa New South Wales, sa Sydney, and there were also some projects na involved ako sa Perth, sa Western Australia. Meron din sa Victoria, sa Melbourne, and then meron din actually sa may Southern Australia, sa Adelaide. And then we're working towards a new project na din, doon naman sa medyo northern part ng Australia, sa may bandang Darwin. Basta medyo northern na siya, medyo malapit sa Papua New Guinea, I think. And then, other memorable projects din, mga infrastructure projects sa New South Wales. So, mga transmission lines, upgrade to ng mga transmission lines na papapatayo na din. And, I guess, pipelines, para repair lang siya. Pero, I guess, hindi naman EIA yung ginawa namin dito, pero another environmental study na din. So, yun. Oh, sorry. So, to give like a context lang nung parang ano ko, oh wait, sorry. Dito sa slide na to, I was able to travel to Sydney to meet the team. So, ito yung team ko doon. Well, part lang ng team kasi around nasa 30 kami, pero nung time na yun, parang ilan lang kami nandun. So, I was able to meet them in person. I was able to, parang work on some of our projects na din face to face. Yun. So, it was actually medyo culture shock, pero at the same time, it was a fun experience. So, I guess itong next na to is kung bakit parang naging passion ko yung EIA dahil dito sa project na to. So, what you're seeing here is yung submarine cable network map. So, basically, mga cables to all around the world. So, ano nga ba yung submarine cables? Kanina ko pa sinasabi yung mga submarine cable projects. Ganyan. So, ano nga ba yung submarine cables? So, yung submarine cables, they're nagtatransmit sila ng internet natin or yung data, and they're used for mainly communications. So, kapag nag-search tayo sa internet, dahil yun sa mga submarine cables, hindi dahil sa mga satellites na malabas or nasa labas ng Earth. May part din sila, pero it's mostly yung mga submarine cables. So, ayun. So, they're kind of regarded as unsung heroes of telecommunications. Kasi sila yung nagtatransmit ng internet natin, sila yung nagtatransmit ng data natin. It's the reason why we were able to communicate yun, via the internet. So next is, ayun, ito yung example ng submarine cable. So as you can see, sobrang nipis nila kasi they use fiber optic technologies. So these are actually made of yung optical fibers is actually made of glass. And as you can see, sobrang discreet nila. Like ang liliit lang nila. Parang ang size nila is hair-like, pero yung coating nila is, or yung nagpo-protect sa kanila is parang the size of a garden hose. So as of early 2024, there are almost 1.4 million kilometers of submarine cables that are in service globally. So etong lahat na to is 1.4 million kilometers na. So as an EIA specialist and as an environmental engineer, we make sure na yung mga submarine cables na i-establish dito sa Pilipinas, and I guess in my work now sa Australia, is yung mga i-establish nila is walang matatamaan na marine protected areas. And then we want to make sure na din na while we're doing our environmental studies, they are following, or I guess the client na din is following the appropriate steps in getting the relevant permits. So kung dito sa Pilipinas, yung mga environmental compliance certificate nila, kung medyo malaki yung cable project, usually kailangan talaga ng project na yon ng ECC or Environmental Compliance Certificate. Pag sa Australia naman, ibang type of permits naman. And yeah, we want to make sure na the appropriate environmental studies are done, given na these cables kasi, although they're underlain sa seabed, they're very deep sa seabed, they can cause some minor seabed disturbance, and yung buong installation or the whole installation process of these cables can actually cause disruptions sa marine life. So when we're doing the environmental studies talaga for these types of projects, we want to make sure na they won't cause any impacts, or kung meron man, temporary lang. So, ayun, may mga times na kailangan i-redesign or kailangan parang i-reroute nung client namin yung design nila to make way or to avoid yung mga protected areas dito sa Philippines or doon sa Australia. So, ayun. So, overview naman tayo ng environmental engineering. So, what are their requirements, qualifications, and career opportunities? So, maraming areas actually under na environmental engineering. We've got wastewater, water supply, public health, sanitary science, and environmental engineering. And naalala ko, before I graduated, medyo nahihirapan pa ako actually pumili nung saan ko gusto pumunta. Gusto ko ba mag-design, or gusto ko bang magtrabaho sa DOH or sa mga hospitals, or gusto ko bang environmental management, or sa sustainability, or sa waste management, or contamination, ganun. And I guess what helped me decide was naglista ko ng pros and cons. So, or parang not pros and cons, pero yung likes and dislikes ko. So what I really like doing ever since on college is research and writing, technical writing. So I remember I had this one course called Introduction to EIA, Introduction to Environmental Impact Assessments. And I remember na pinagawan kami nun ng it was a group case study and individual case study na din. And I guess nagustuhan ko siya. Nagustuhan ko yung na kailangan ko mag-research, kailangan ko gumawa ng kailangan ko mag-technical writing. So, ayun. Pero ang dami pang areas under environmental engineering na, as civil engineers, pwede nyo i-try. Kumbaga, pwede nyo i-explore. So, sa career opportunities marami. Pwede kayo maging design engineers, pwede kayo maging project managers, or you can go into construction management then actually. I know some people na mga sanitary engineers pero went into construction management. And then pwede kayo maging public health consultants, or if you could be like me, na environmental consultant or specialist. You can also be a researcher or a scientist. So, ang daming career opportunities under environmental engineering. So, you just have to pick kung anong sa tingin yung magugustuhan nyo and yung tingin yung mag-enjoy kayo. So, punta naman tayo sa qualifications. So, if you want to specialize in environmental management, then you actually need a degree sa environmental engineering, or you need to specialize in environmental engineering kasi based on personal experience lang din to. Parang kailan lang din kasi na-realize ng mga companies na environmental engineers can also do environmental impact assessments, not just yung mag-graduate ng environmental science or natural sciences. So, or actually chemical engineers din. So, if you're a civil engineer na gusto mong mapunta halimbawa sa design ng wastewater treatment plants or mga water supply systems, it's important din na malawak yung knowledge mo on environmental and sanitary engineering. So, I do know some people I do know some colleagues sa GHD na civil engineers pero they're also working on water modeling or I guess parang designing na din ng mga water supply distribution systems. So, yun, pwedeng kayong mga civil engineers. So, ayun. Pero alam ko, may knowledge din sila about environmental engineering. So, it's an important or an integral part din, I guess, ng career nyo or yung journey nyo. So, yeah. Important siya kasi when you're designing a water supply distribution system or a wastewater treatment plant, you need to make sure na adequate yung design mo and adequate siya in the term that it can serve the required number of people and actually meet the needs of the people and hindi siya over-designed or hindi siya under-designed. So, ayun. Next is, kailangan may passion ka for the environment and the communities. So, in environmental engineering, in whatever field you want to explore, you need to have the passion, not just sa environment, but also to the people. So, as civil engineers, kung saan nyo man gusto mag-specialize, you will always need to keep in mind yung magiging impact ng project na itatayo nyo sa environment and sa mga tao na nakatira around your project area. So, kahit mga condominiums pa yan or mga small high-rise or parang mga mid-rise buildings, you need to think about the consequences of your project sa surrounding environment and sa mga tao. Oh, sorry. May isa pa pala. You also must kapag sa environmental management naman, you must also research and report writing. So, like what I've said earlier, environmental management is mostly about research talaga. So, ayun. If we go back to environmental management, yung field nun, how do you conserve? Or how do you do ecological conservation? How do you manage? What do you need to do? What do you need? So we've got to remember na ecological conservation. Oops, sorry. Sorry. Okay. Ecological conservation does not only involve biodiversity, but it also involves yung local community and the need to tap into their insights and their knowledge about their surrounding environment. So what do I mean by this? It is about listening to the local community. You need to acquire or tap into their knowledge. Kung ano ba yung mga species na nakatira doon. Kasi sila yung mas nakakaalam compared sa atin, I guess. Sila yung nakakaalam kung paano nila ginagamit yung mga natural resources nila and kung ano yung nangyayari sa environment nila. So, it does not only include, yung biodiversity, pero kailangan mo talagang kausapin yung mga tao na nandun to get, I guess, a wider picture kung ano yung nangyayari sa environment nila. So, why is this important? Kasi, para sa mga developers and para sa mga engineers na involved dun sa tatayo na project, this is para maging aware sila na may matatamaan pala sila ganitong species or ganyan na species tapos threatened species or vulnerable species. And then, once na nalaman nila yun, maybe pwede nilang pag-isipan ulit kung ano yung uh, parang mas maayos na design or mas sustainable na design na hindi masyadong makaka-impact dun sa surrounding environment. So, what are the skills needed for environmental management projects? So, like I said, technical writing skills and research. Kailangan you need to have an interest in research. Good understanding of laws and regulations. Most of these are environmental laws and regulations, pero sometimes we kind of refer din sa mga building codes. Sometimes, very rarely. Hindi naman kami mga, I guess, mga civil engineers, pero we still try to, wrap our head around mga building codes and stuff like that, or anything related sa civil engineering. You also need to have good interpersonal and intrapersonal skills. Interpersonal, meaning sa mga projects kasi na ganito, required na effective communication between team members. And then, intrapersonal skills, kailangan confident ka about what you're doing. Kailangan din may parang sense of, I guess, parang marunong ka mag-regulate ng emotions mo. Kasi, sometimes during the project, minsan nagkakaroon ng delays. Minsan, yung gusto mong hingi na data, halimbawa sa mga government agencies, is ang tagal nilang ibigay. Hindi naman, although, yeah, medyo madalas na siya mangyari. But yun. So, you need to at least know na hindi mo masyadong mapapakita na stress ka like in front of the client and stuff. And then, kailangan may ability ka din. I guess, this is the most important for me. Kailangan you have the ability to overcome then yung distractions. Kasi you need to be aware dun sa lahat nangyayari during the project, and you need to be aware kung ano yung mga pinag-uusapan. Kasi baka, may pinag-uusapan na pala sila tapos umuo ka, tapos kailangan mo nang gawin ngayon, kailangan mo nang isatupad yun. Pero hindi naman pala siya, like, for example, aligned sa values mo, or hindi naman siya part ng project. Parang ganun. And then, analytical skills. This is important if, halimbawa, ang specialty mo is, or halimbawa, in my line of work, ang specialty ko is water quality. So, kailangan I have good analytical skills kapag nag-analyze ng mga results. And then, kung bakit, halimbawa, naging ganito yung result nung pinatest namin ng water sample. So, halimbawa, bakit mataas yung total coliform nito? Bakit mataas yung iron ng sample na to? Ano kaya yung meron dun sa area? Kung bakit naging ganito yung result? So, ayun, you just have to have some analytical skills talaga when you're doing this type of work. And then, time and workload management. I did mention kanina na I only have like 2 years work experience, pero I've already been involved in more than I actually lost count, pero it was around more than 20 projects na. And the reason why is ang daming projects na nagsasabay-sabay talaga. And since right now, dito sa Philippines, parang ang mas nagbo-boom na is yung renewable energy industry. So talagang padami yung projects na, na kailangan namin gawan ng EIA, or kailangan namin pag-aralan. Kailangan namin gawan ng environmental study. So Australia, ganun din. More on actually infrastructure sila, di masyado on renewable energy. Pero it's kind of the same. Talagang maraming projects na kailangan na ng appropriate na environmental studies, or kailangan nang tumaan talaga sa EIA process. So, next is how do we manage the environment and conserve the environment? So, my answer would be by doing EIA, or by I guess parang properly following yung procedures ng EIA. So, I guess ito yung parang mga Holy Trinity, kumbaga. Pagdating sa Philippines, ito yung Holy Trinity namin. Yung PD 1586, yung DAO 2003-30, and yung EMP MC 005. So, dito namin nalalaman kung kailangan ba ng isang project ng EIA, and kung anong type of EIA yung kailangan namin gawin. Is it for an EIS, or is it for an EPRMP, or stuff like that? And then, there are also other regulations or laws na I guess ni-reference namin, especially now na yung nasabi ko nga, or na-mention ko nga kanina na nagbo-boom na yung renewable energy industry dito sa Pilipinas. So, since kaka-release lang nung DENR nung February, nung DAO 2024-02, which is the guidelines for offshore wind farm to get for them to acquire their ECC. Ayun, talagang we have like so much work, and then we have to understand talaga what these guidelines are and kung ano yung mga requirements ng DNR sa mga clients or sa mga gustong magtayo ng mga offshore wind farm. So, for Australia, since this is like my main work right now, iba yung government system nila doon. If tama yung wording ko, it's that they are a representative democracy, a constitutional monarchy, and also a federation of states. So parang each of their state, like New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, they also have their own laws and plans. Now we have to take in consideration when we're developing our environmental assessment reports. So, for example, yung EPBC Act nila or Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act nila is actually good for the whole country na. Pero may sariling regulations and plans din kasi halimbawa yung New South Wales. And so kapag gumagawa kami ng mga environmental impact assessments doon sa New South Wales, binabrowse ko din yung parang plans per state, or for example sa New South Wales yung mga state environmental planning policies nila and yung mga local environmental plans. And honestly it's a challenge kasi especially for someone like me na hindi naman galing dun or hindi naman I guess hindi naman masyadong bihasa dun sa mga environmental laws and processes nila dun. So as you work, as you do the studies, you get to learn naman, which is really nice. So kanina ko pa mention ko na yung EIA and EIS, or how do you actually conduct an EIA. And I guess I'll also tell you the relevance nito sa mga civil engineers. So if I try to explain all of these one by one, medyo matatagalan talaga tayo. Pero I guess yung key things lang are dito sa first two phases, yung social preparation and scoping activities. This is where yung client, the developer, and usually yung kasama nilang technical expert, yung kasama na technical expert ng client is usually mga civil engineers. Sino yung magtatayo ng project? Civil engineers, geotechnical engineers, then minsan structural engineers. Kasama sila lagi dito sa social preparation and scoping activities kasi sila yung sasagot ng mga tanong na related dun sa, I guess, kung paano itatayo yung project. And then, dito, sa social preparation scoping activities, involved na yung public dito. So, pakikinggan ng mga engineers and mga developers kung ano yung pwedeng maging issues or parang yung mga issues ng mga tao doon na kapag tinayo tong project na to sa lugar nila, may mangyayari ba dun sa soil nila or something? May mangyayari ba dun sa, or mag-i-impact pa siya dun sa natural resources nila? Or ano ba yung magiging benefits nitong project sa community nila? And then we have our baseline studies, which is actually my favorite part or my favorite phase ng EIA. Dito namin ginagawa yung mga fieldworks. So basically, ito na yung parang kukuha kami ng mga samples, magsa-survey kami, gagawa kami ng mga biodiversity surveys like flora and fauna, or ito-test namin yung air quality ng project area. Ganun. And then, after nun, you get to write the report na, and then kailangan mo na siyang isubmit sa DNR. And then, ayun, after that you have to actually disclose sa public kung ano yung mga findings during the study. And then after if sa tingin ng DNR nagko-comply naman lahat or parang yung buong report is adequate and I guess complete yung information na kailangan nila, they can give you or give the developers an ECC, an Environmental Compliance Certificate decision, or pwedeng hindi rin. May times na may mga ibang projects na hindi nakakuha ng ECC because, halimbawa, they think na hindi naman ito good, or I guess, medyo malaki yung impact ng project na yun sa environment. For example, we had like a project before, pero hindi namin siya naabutan. Parang nakwento lang sa amin before na may isang project, it was a mining project na hindi binigyan ng ECC because it's a mining project. And medyo malaki yung impacts talaga nung mining project na yun sa environment. So, hindi sila binigyan ng ECC. Ayun. So, frequently asked questions. So, how long does an EIA take to do or develop? So, it actually depends. Usually, it takes about a year. Pero may iba din na 2 to 3 years. So, actually, we refer to every project as a thesis na hindi matapos-tapos. So, parang nag-thesis ka na din, pero hindi lang isa, kundi 2, 3, tapos sabay-sabay pa siya. And yun, it might seem a little bit daunting at pag iisipin nyo na parang, kailangan namin gumawa ng parang mala-thesis na, work for the rest of our lives. Parang ganun. Pero Hello. Okay, sorry. Medyo nawala ako. Um, ayun, so it really feels like a thesis sometimes kasi ang tagal talaga matapos. And ayun, pero may iba kaming clients na parang dapat after 6 to 7 or 8 months tapos na yung project, which is nangyayari pero very rarely. Usually nag-extend sila ng 1 year, ganun, 1.5 years. So number two, do all projects need to do an EIA or acquire an environmental compliance certificate? Again, it depends. If your project is a golf course, kung gusto niyo magtayo ng golf course, of course you need to do an EIA. Kasi it's an environmentally critical project. Ang dami mong kailangan gawin to para magpatayo ng golf course. Kailangan you need to really ano tawag doon, parang kailangan mong i-restructure yung land. Yung dami mong kailangan ipatag. Parang ganun. So it actually depends on how us, yung mga EIA specialists, screen your projects using one of our guidelines, the EMDMC 005, or yung screening guidelines. May iba kasi, like yung mga buildings na, halimbawa, yung normal lang na structure, yung parang, halimbawa, a high-rise, or hindi naman high-rise, pero parang a mid-rise building along EDSA maybe, minsan kailangan lang doon ng CNC or Certificate of Non-Coverage. So parang hindi ka gagawan ng EIA doon. And then, ano yung difference ng EIA and EIS? Kasi baka mamaya medyo nagugulahan na kayo. Ano nga ba yung difference nun? So yung EIA is yung buong process, yung pag-evaluate ng mga pwedeng maging impacts ng project. While the EIS is yung document mismo na ginagawa naming mga consultants, and yun na din yung sinasubmit namin sa DNR or kung saan government agency, which also serves as the proponent or the developer's application for an ECC. So yeah, basically it's the report na sinusulat namin. So some key things to note na din, I guess parang learnings na din na during, I guess, natutunan ko during my work. Doing an EIA is 50% fieldwork, 50% research and report writing, and 100% social interaction. So if you notice dito sa Philippine EIS system natin, lahat ng phases na yan required na in some way or another, required na may public participation. So for the first 2 phases, kailangan involved talaga yung public, yung community kung saan ka magtatayo ng projects. Kailangan makinig sa kanila, kailangan ilista yung mga pwedeng nilang maging issue. And then, pagdating naman dito sa may bandang gitna, ang public participation naman dito is actually yung sa yung mga technical experts na mag-review ng EIS. And then, pagdating naman dito sa public disclosure, public hearing, ito na yung kailangan mong I guess, sabihin ulit dun sa public yung kung ano yung mga naging results ng studies na ginawa nyo. Then you have to listen then yung sa mga magiging parang ano nila, comments nila or mga reactions nila dun sa studies na ginawa nyo. So it's kind of like yung thesis kasi sa public hearing, yung panel nyo is actually the local community. So sila yung maghihimay ng ginawa yung study. So next is going outside of your box or specialty is common. So I have some pictures provided na where I did go outside of my box or my specialty. So the first picture was this was a fauna survey or a biodiversity survey. So yun nga, this was an onshore. The project is an onshore wind farm sa Laguna in Quezon, and I guess parang ang naging role ko dun is I observed what they were doing and I get to ask questions na rin sa kanila kung paano nila ginagawa yung study, and then I was also able to experience parang taking the animals from the nets or yung mga birds from the nets and the bats from the nets, and then ayun, and I get to learn kung anong species yung hinahawakan ko. Yun. And then on the right photo naman, this was the NSCR project, isa sa mga auditing activities namin. And what we actually did here is, hindi siya specialty ko, but it's important na parang naging part ako noon. Kasi during this project, we went to the site, we were able to talk to the project manager, yung mga, I guess, yung project manager and yung project team. We were able to ask, ano yung parang naging conservation strategies nila kasi around this part kasi may mga parang heritage or mga cultural significant items or mga cultural significant buildings, parang yung mga old railroad stations. I guess dyan sa baba meron yon actually dito sa station na to, and tinanong namin kung ano yung ginawa nila to conserve that piece of heritage. And then we were also able to go to the nearly all of the relocation sites kasi nung tinatayo nila tong project, there were some informal settler families na na-relocate. So we went to the or most of the relocation sites, and we were able to see yung living conditions. We were able to observe yung living conditions ng mga na-relocate, and we were actually able to to interview some of them, kung okay ba yung titirhan nila, yung if they have adequate running water, if they have electricity, stuff like that. So ibig sabihin, yun, it was out of my box. It was really, hindi ko siya specialty kasi, hindi ko naman specialty yung pagiging stakeholder engagement specialist or something like that. Pero it's an eye-opening experience, and it's actually pretty common in this type of work. Kasi you need to know then, kasi you need to be, I guess, exposed then sa iba't ibang phases ng EIA or ng studies ng EIA. Hindi ka lang magsistick dun sa isa. Hindi ka lang magsistick dun sa halimbawa water quality. No, hindi ka lang magsistick dun. You actually have to explore the other areas para pag nakita mo yung EIS report or pag sinabit mo yung EIS report, alam mo yung buong picture. Alam mo yung bawat study. Ganun. And then, I guess, a bonus, na din, yung process naman sa New South Wales. It's actually the same lang. Yung EIS process or EIA process ng New South Wales sa dito sa Pilipinas. Itong picture na to is actually one of my projects doon, yung parang upgrade ng transmission line sa isang, dun sa New South Wales. And then, I guess parang pinaka-key difference lang between yung process or yung paggawa ng report or yung pag-acquire ng data is between here in the Philippines and doon sa New South Wales or sa Australia is kung gaano kabilis yung pagkuha mo ng data actually from yung kailangan mo na data to make your report. Kasi doon they have like this huge database na laging ina-update and laging hindi naman siya every month or parang pag may kapag may significant changes lang ina-update siya ganun. And it's pretty easy to get what you need kasi available lahat sa internet. So parang may mga web maps sila. Parang, let's say, parang Google Maps, pero ayun, pwede mong makita yung mga soil types nung area or pwede mong makita kung ano yung mga certain species, kung saan sila na-locate dun sa project area mo or kung ano yung mga names ng mga creeks, kung ano yung parang map nila. You could also see kung saan nakalocate yung mga heritage items nila. So, I guess yun lang yung key difference. Mas madaling kumuha ng data doon. Like, for example, itong map na to, generate ko to nung Thursday or Wednesday. And konting click lang siya, like layers, and then makikita ko na kung anong soil types ng project area. So, ayun. It's pretty convenient. Medyo mabilis. Kasi dito, pag gumagawa ka ng EIA dito, hindi gaanong may mga information na you really have to go to the LGU to get kasi minsan hindi siya available online. So, ayun. And then, next. I guess parang medyo last part na din to nung presentation ko. So, as future civil engineers, should you take or specialize or at least gather an interest in environmental engineering? So, definitely, yes. This specialization would increase your awareness sa environment and sa community sa pagtatayuan ng future project mo. So, right now, sa Pilipinas kasi, yung environment natin is in a constant state of decline or deterioration. Maraming projects ngayon, and I'm sure you've heard of these projects, hindi ko nasasabihin ko ano, pero maraming projects ngayon na hindi dumadaan sa tamang proseso ng pagkuha ng ECC or hindi gumagawa masyado ng environmental studies. So, if there were environmental studies or mga feasibility studies done, kung meron man, minsan hindi sapat yung justification ng studies na yun or minsan hindi or kulang yung information na nandun sa study. Kasi it's either minadali siya or, hindi naman maayos yung pagkagawa. So, we have so many infrastructures right now na we also have like so many structures right now na kailangan mag-adapt ng sustainability measures. So as civil engineers, kung mag-specialize man kayo sa environmental engineering, you would be able to recommend such measures or designs na hindi gaano makaka-degrade sa environment natin. You would also be able to discern if yung project nyo ba magko-contribute halimbawa dun sa declining green spaces natin dito sa Metro Manila or if, maka-contribute pa siya dun sa rising heat index natin kasi nga, sa sobrang lawak ng project nyo or sa sobrang parang unnecessary ng project is mas ano siya ng green spaces natin, mas nakaka-decline ganun, or mas nakaka-decrease pala, sorry. So, if if aware kayo dun sa EIA process, or if aware kayo na kailangan nyo ng ECC or a certificate of non-coverage or any other environmental permit, you would be a much better engineer, maybe. You also know the importance of conducting environmental studies para sa mga projects nyo. You'll also consider the community. So, hindi lang kayo tayo ng mga projects, hindi lang kayo develop, but you also get to think, I guess, of the people na may impact ng projects nyo. And you'll also get to think about the strategies na kailangan yung i-employ to help ease the impacts of your project to the community and to the local people. So, environmental engineering is really a wonderful field. Ang dami mong pwedeng pasukan, ang dami mong pwedeng ma-experience. So, yun, pero medyo bias ako. I feel like ang pinakamagandang field talaga is environmental management kasi ang dami mong pwedeng ma-experience na type of projects. So, pwede kang makamanage ng renewable energy projects. Pwede ding mga heavy industry projects like cement manufacturing projects, mga ganon, or mga submarine cable projects like what I'm doing. Mga roads, infrastructures like transmission lines, mga railways, and pwede ding mining sometimes, mga airports. Ganon din. So, sobrang dami mong pwedeng ma-encounter na types of projects, and every day is like a new learning experience talaga, a new challenge for us, mga environmental engineers. So, ayun. Like I said, like 2 years working ang dami ko ng involvements in so many different projects. And iba-iba sila. So, you get a variety talaga, like every month, iba-iba, ganun. So, bottom line, environmental engineering is an interesting field. Pero even if you don't want to specialize in it, I hope na as future civil engineers, as future construction managers, or kung gusto nyo man magtayo ng sarili nyong structure one day, or gusto nyo magtayo or mag-develop ng sarili nyong project one day, I hope na you would always take into consideration na we have a declining environment, and every project na itatayo mo, or every project na itatayo mo or the design mo, you have to really rethink, or you have to just think about your design. Would it cut more trees? Would it damage more habitats? Or would it relocate more families? Would it decrease our green spaces here in Metro Manila and in other parts of the Philippines? So, just something to keep in mind, I guess. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
And that, my dear audience, is Engineer Alexis. You have made environmental engineering enjoyable and adventurous. Engineer, your inspiring stories have become our eye-opener on how environmental engineers improve our planet and that we can have our own adventures in this field. Thank you so much, Engineer. I hope that everyone has learned a lot about the talk that our speaker has imparted to us. So moving on, will it be all right, Engineer, if we proceed to the question and answer portion?
Yep, sure.
Thank you, Engineer Alexis. So to our live viewers, feel free to comment down your questions so we can give you the opportunity to ask our dear speaker. So, Engineer, while waiting for our participants to key in their questions, Engineer, I just have one question po muna.
Okay.
So, Engineer, what motivates you po to pursue environmental engineering out of all the fields in engineering po?
I guess yung parang passion ko for research. This may seem pretty vague and this may seem a bit cliche, pero I wanted to change, yung, I guess, yung way, or yung Pilipinas, kung paano natin tingnan yung environment natin. I know it seems pretty cliche, pero I guess this field could make me realize, or at least make me realize that dream, when we're doing when we're doing the EIA or some environmental studies, we really look at the projects, kung talaga makaka-impact ba siya, kung gaano kalaki yung impact niya sa environment. And we want to make sure na yung project na itatayo na yun, or yung project na itatayo ng developer can, I guess, parang benefit the people and benefit in a way yung environment. So, ayun, I mean, it's a bit silly. For me, it sounds a bit silly, pero I just wanted to change, I guess, yung way kung paano natin tignan yung environment, kung paano natin i-handle yung environment natin. Yan.
What a wonderful answer po, Engineer. So from our live viewers po, here's our first question. What challenges have you faced transitioning from being a student to working as a professional engineer, and how did you overcome them?
Challenges from transitioning to a student to like a working engineer. I guess siguro totoo yung sinasabi nila before na you don't really learn everything sa classroom. I guess kasi parang ang nasa isip ko nun, okay, maybe I can apply what I've learned sa classroom or in theory dun sa kung anong work ko ngayon. Which is, in some cases, totoo naman. May mga na-apply ako. Pero I remember when I was starting in this field, yung first job ko, I didn't know na sobrang lawak ng EIA. Akala ko, you just have to like do research. That's it. Hindi pala ganun. Parang, ano pala, nalaman ko na kailangan mo palang pumunta sa yung mga barangay, kailangan mo palang makipag-usap sa iba't ibang tao, and you have to do like so many field works, you have to do so many studies. So, hindi naman yun naturo masyado sa classroom. And, I think that's one of the biggest culture. I'm not sure if it's culture shock, pero it's one of the biggest shocks that I got when like after graduating tapos work kagad. So, yeah.
So, totoo nga po, engineer, sabi nila na experience is really our greatest teacher.
Yes,
Sitting in
definitely.
life po. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
So, now let's proceed po to the next question. Is it okay po ba?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. So, for the next question, given the growing waste management problem in the Philippines, especially po with plastic waste, anong mga innovative solutions or technologies yung pwede pong explore to reduce, recycle, or manage waste more effectively?
Okay. So, this is kind of, medyo hindi siya, or I mean like, hindi, sorry, nawala ako. Nag-disconnect
Okay.
ulit yung microphone ko. But it's not really in my field. Pero I guess how we can parang mga innovations in waste management, there are a lot actually. Although hindi na ako masyadong bihasa in this, I guess, in this type of field. Pero we have so many waste management practices, and all of them they're all doable. The problem lang is the way they're implemented. Minsan hindi siya na-implement ng maayos ng mga LGU or ng government, and kaya hindi rin siya masyadong, I guess, parang na-follow ng mga tao or ng mga community. There are practices ngayon sa iba't ibang barangay. Halimbawa, doon sa mga napuntahan namin barangay, may mga MRFs sila, may mga materials recovery facilities, and kapag halimbawa mga piyesta, ganun, they're using recyclable materials to make or parang to make their fiesta, ganun, to decorate their town. So I guess that's one of the ways. Pero yun, it really comes down to, I guess, the way they're implemented. Kasi hindi naman masyadong na-implement yung mga good practices na yun dito sa Pilipinas. So, ayun, as you can see, pataas na rin ang pataas yung waste, I guess, yeah, yung waste natin dito. But yeah, I guess starting small, doon sa halimbawa sa mga barangay, in like having a materials recovery facility or employing yung reuse, reduce, recycle na practice is, I guess it's a good way to start. If you're trying to start small, parang ganun.
So thank you for that insightful answer po, engineer. So now let's move on po for the last and final question po.
Okay.
So using your experience as an engineer, what suggestions do you have for future professionals developing various structures to reduce the heat island effect in an urban setting?
Okay. I guess I don't kasi masyadong I don't know if this is the right term, pero yung greenwashing, or I'm not sure if this is the right term, pero I guess if magde-design kayo ng structure, magde-design kayo ng project, make sure that you're incorporating a sustainable practice. For example, reusing. I'm not sure kung pwede yun sa construction yet. I'm not an expert on this. Pero if you can reuse materials, or parang reusing materials, recycling the materials you use to build the projects, or maybe following the Philippine Green Building Code, or providing, or parang just making sure that your project is parang sustainable, or not environmental friendly, pero sustainable. pwede din through designing halimbawa as a water supply system na efficient for that particular building or for that particular structure. Pwede ding parang using or yeah, or I guess parang tawag doon, parang hindi ka magkakat ng trees gaano or parang you would really avoid cutting kung ano yung parang mga trees natin. Yeah, just making sure na yung design mo, I guess, has the least impacts. Kasi, yun nga, kumukunti ng green spaces natin dito sa Metro Manila. And sabi nga nila, yung Arceros Forest Park na is yung last long natin. So, kung nasa airplane kayo, makita niyo Metro Manila, puro shades of gray na siya, puro mga concrete buildings, wala na masyadong greenery. So, yeah, just making sure, I guess, na your design would not impact the environment more, or your project would not impact the environment more. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Engineer, for answering all of those questions. And there we have it. Thank you, Engineer Alexis Maria Lipura. In light of
Thank you.
your efforts to be with us today, we would like to present you with one of our tokens of appreciation. The PICE MUSU would like to impart this e-certificate, thanking you for being a part of our event entitled Swiss Solutions Navigating the Landscape of Environmental Engineering, giving the second day of June 2024. But of course, before you leave, Engineer, are there any final words that you would like to impart on our dear audience?
Yeah, sure. I guess siguro yung mga audience natin ngayon is mga civil engineers or undergraduates pa lang, and yeah, so I guess final words for you all is don't forget to take the environment into consideration when magde-develop na kayo ng sarili niyong projects. Don't forget to listen sa mga community, sa mga local people na matatamaan ng project niyo. They're really, really important when you're, I guess, doing your whole project. It's important to gather all of their insights. It's important to listen to them. And it's also important to conserve our environment. As like sobrang konti na lang nung yun nga, like what I've said, like you've been repeating earlier, sobrang konti na lang green spaces natin dito. And I guess kung sa labas man ng Metro Manila, marami tayong mga habitats, marami tayong mga ecosystems na nadadamage due to yun nga, yung parang persistent na pagtayo ng mga projects na hindi naman masyadong kailangan, pero you know, they're threatening our flora and fauna. So as civil engineers and as future civil engineers, always keep the environment in mind and also keep the communities in mind. So, yun lang.
Thank you for that very insightful po and inspiring words, Engineer. And that's a wrap for our speaker of the day.